Hello to everyone today. There are 5 things that you need to have out on your desks, so if you would, go ahead and pull those out. You need a pencil, piece of paper, red pen, calculator, and then your notes that I handed out to you yesterday. All right, and then you will have more time at the end of class to write down the assignment for tonight. Just remember that this assignment does need to be done on paper and on the website Big Ideas Math. All right, so if you would, pull out your Chapter 8 notes. Today we are going to focus on 8.1, Samples and Population. There are a few things that I would like you to write down for important information, so if you would, please pull out your red pen and then go ahead and write these things down. All right, the first thing that you're writing down is a population. So a population is an entire group of people or objects. So let's talk about the population of Jacksonville. Does anybody have a guess of how many people you think live in Jacksonville? What do you think?
19 million.
Not 19 million, that's very high. 7 million, also high. Who else has another guess?
4 million.
Still high, not 4 million.
1 or 2 million?
Which one, 1 or 2 million?
I guess 1.
1 million is correct. Please go grab a candy in the back of the room. About 1 million people live in Jacksonville. Okay, so that's the population of Jacksonville. Now, let's talk about sample. Everyone say sample.
Sample.
A sample is a part of a population. So let's think about Jacksonville. It's a big city, but then there are different samples or different parts, like the north side or the west side. Okay, our school here is on the west side, all right? So there are different sections in Jacksonville, and that would be considered a sample. Within a sample, you can have 2 different things, something that's biased or something that's unbiased. Now, if I were to say to you guys, I think that I have the cutest kids in all the world, would that be considered biased or unbiased?
Biased.
That's a biased opinion. Why do I think they're the cutest kids in all the world? Because they're my kids. But if I go to a friend, do you think she probably thinks my kids are the cutest, or do you think she thinks her kids are the cutest? Okay, we all have a biased opinion as a parent that our kids are the best, okay? So here you've written down 2 things. An unbiased sample is representative of a population, and it must be large and random for accuracy. Everyone say large and random. All right, so if it's not large and random, it's not a good sample. Next up, a biased sample is not representative of a population because one or more parts of the population are favored. Okay, so does anyone need more time to write this down? All right, right now we're going to focus on the difference between population and sample. Let's look at this first right here. How many of you guys like Lucky Charms? Okay, who has another favorite cereal? What's your favorite cereal? Cheerios. I had Cheerios for breakfast, actually. Hayden, what about you?
Reese's Puffs.
Reese's Puffs, okay. Thomas?
Fruity Pebbles.
Also a good one. Miley? Fruit Loops. Last one.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
All right, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Well, the thing we're going to talk about today is Lucky Charms. In Lucky Charms, there's 2 separate kinds of cereal in one cereal. What are the 2 kinds of cereal that are in there? Marshmallows and then the little brown pieces. How many of you like the marshmallow part the best?
I just eat them.
Who likes the brown pieces the best? All right, I still remember when I was a kid, I would save all the marshmallows till the end and try to take my spoon and like pull out all the brown ones, eat them first so that the last couple bites were like amazing, okay? So let's talk about this. I've got for problem A, the box of Lucky Charms and the marshmallows. Which one of those do you think is the population, the big part of that?
Box of Lucky Charms.
That is correct. The box of Lucky Charms is definitely the population because it is the bigger part of those 2. Okay, so it's the entire group of objects, basically. So would that make the marshmallows my population or my sample?
Sample.
A sample, okay? If I go back up here to the top and I can see a sample is a part of the population. In this case, the marshmallows are a part of the big box of Lucky Charms. Let's go to problem B. I have two things here, the residents of Jacksonville and then the residents of Florida. Which one do you think is the population?
Resident of Florida.
Okay, why is that the population?
Because it's a state.
It's the state. It's the bigger thing that's here between the two. So next to residents of Florida, we're going to write population. So then we're just going to take a part of the residents of Florida. What do we call it if it's just a part of the population? That's our sample. So next to this one, go and write sample and then box it in. Are you guys understanding the difference between a population and a sample?
Yes.
Which one's the big one?
The population.
And which one is the part?
Sample.
Very good. Okay, now we're going to move on and focus on, within a sample, if something is biased or unbiased. So let's talk about this first one. It says that you want to estimate the number of 12th grade students in a high school who eat pizza for lunch. So in order to do this, you might not have enough time to go and ask every single 12th grader. You might not be able to find every single 12th grader. So instead what you're going to do is you're going to take a sample, a little part, and you decide to survey all of the students on the soccer team. Do you think that that seems biased or unbiased?
Bias.
Why do you think that's biased?
Wait.
Soccer players might like pizza more than football players.
Okay, he says soccer players might like pizza more than football players. What about if everybody on the soccer team went on a diet and they were trying to get really fit before their game? Do you think the rest of the 12th graders are on the same diet that the soccer team is on? No, I don't think so either. So here's why that would be a biased sample, and I want you to write down all of the words that I'm writing down right here. It's biased because the sample favors the soccer team. All right, once again, make sure everything that's on my screen is going into your notes. It's biased because the sample favors the soccer team. They didn't ask everyone else who was in band or chorus or art class or the football team. They didn't ask any of those. They only went to the soccer team. So that's not a good sample because it was biased. Let's try another one, problem B. You want to estimate the number of students in a high school who ride a bus to school. Would this be our high school? No, why not? We don't have buses that bring kids to school, okay? But for this one, at a school where they did ride buses, so it could have been the public school that I went to growing up, you survey 100 students at random during lunch. What do you think, biased or unbiased?
Unbiased.
That is definitely unbiased. Now, I want you to go back up to the top, look at your notes where we said something about an unbiased sample. Read it in the red notes that we put at the top. What's it say? An unbiased sample is representative of a population. It must be large and random for accuracy. So the reason why this was unbiased is because the sample that we took was large and random. Go ahead and write that down for problem B. You always want to make sure, now remember you're doing this with your pencil, the sample needs to be large and random in order to be unbiased. Is unbiased good or bad?
Good.
It's good. You want an unbiased sample so that you're not favoring a certain group of people and you're getting a more fair answer from your sample. Finally, problem C. You want to estimate the number of 8th grade students in your school who find it relaxing to listen to music. How many of you guys in here enjoy, like when you're doing work, you like to have music going on in the background, okay? How many of you are the type that you work better if it is completely silent? All right, we've got just a couple. More people like to listen to music. So here's what I'm trying to figure out. I want to know about the 8th grade students. So what I have done is I decided to go and survey 15 randomly selected members of the band. Is it good to do it at random?
Yes.
It's fantastic. However, do you think this is considered biased or unbiased? It's definitely biased. Why do you think it's biased?
Because it's part of the band.
Okay. First of all, there were only 15 people in the sample. I would say you probably need at least like 50 people in that sample. This sample only had 15 people. So the sample is, for one, it's small. And who does it favor? And it favors the people that are in the band. Maybe the people in band absolutely, well, they probably love music, so they probably enjoy listening to music. Well, someone else who's not in band might not enjoy listening to music quite as much, possibly. Okay, so for that, it's biased. That means it's not very fair because it's small and it favors the band. All right, check to make sure you've got all of that written down in your notes. Once you've done that, you may turn the page. All right, let's look at the next one. Before we talk about this, how many of you have ever had something you had for dinner, there was leftovers, and then you threw them away in the trash can? Eventually, what happens after you've thrown them away? They could get moldy, it could rot. Then what does the environment feel or smell like?
Stink.
It stinks, okay? So once our kitchen trash can stinks, what do we normally do with that trash?
Trash.
Take out the trash. Where do you put the trash?
Outside in the trash.
Outside. How many of you have it in an outside trash can? Like in the backyard, on the side of the house? Does anyone keep theirs in the garage? Okay, a couple people. All right, so we take that out. Then what do you do with that stinky garbage can at the end of the week?
Clean it out.
Take it to the road.
Take it to the road. What happens once it's at the road?
Garbage
The
man
garbage
comes
man
to
comes
back.
to get
A garbage man comes to get it. Where does he put it?
In
In the
the
trash
waste.
truck.
Into his big garbage truck, right? Does it stay in the garbage truck forever? No. Eventually that goes to a landfill. And that's what this problem is about today, okay? How many of you would like to have a landfill in your backyard? Why would you not want to have a landfill near your house? It stinks. If I want to go out in the backyard and play with my kids, it's going to smell because everyone's stinky, moldy food has been dumped into that, okay? So here's what the problem is for today. You want to know how the residents of your town feel about adding a new landfill. Determine whether the conclusions are valid and justify your answer. So I want you to take your red pen and fill this in. An unbiased sample, we want to know its a conclusion is valid. It's a good one because it's unbiased. The second row underneath what you're writing is a biased sample. The conclusion is not valid because obviously it was biased. Okay, so make sure you're writing that down with your red pen. Now let's talk about problem A. You survey 100 residents who live closest to the landfill. Table A here shows the results. How many people out of those 100 support this new landfill?
10%.
10 of them, okay, which is 10%. How many people don't support it? 90 or 90%. So from this conclusion, you conclude that 10% of the residents of your town support the new landfill. I want you to focus on who has been surveyed. Guys, who did they survey here? Okay, it says right here, those who live closest to the new landfill. Because of that, do you think it's a biased opinion or a not biased opinion? It's definitely biased, okay? So if something is biased, is that valid or not valid?
Not valid.
It is not valid. Write this down. Okay, you're going to be writing it to the left of our little table up there. Why is this not a valid result?
Because they asked the people who live, or it's biased.
Okay, let's use some of our math lingo. I want you to write this down. The conclusion, okay, so the conclusion is what we came up with, is, and you guys just told me it was biased. Now tell me why. Because the sample favors who?
The people who live closest.
Correct. The sample favors those who live closest to the landfill. Not the entire town. In order for this to be a valid opinion, it would have to be fair. It would have to ask the whole town, not just the people who live closest to the landfill. Okay, so take a couple minutes. You want to write down that whole thing there on problem A. It's not valid because it's biased when the sample favors those who live closest to the landfill and not the whole town. All right, I know that's a lot of writing. Okay, but you want to make sure you got that in there for your notes for your homework tonight and then also for our quiz in a couple of weeks. All right, let's go ahead and look at problem B. For this one, you survey 100 residents at random. Table B shows the results. You conclude that 60% of the residents of your town do not support the new landfill. All right, so out of 100 people, who does support it?
40.
Okay, who does not support it?
60.
60. So what do you think at this point? Does this seem valid or not valid?
Valid.
Okay, who can explain to me why do you think it seems valid? Miley, what do you think?
Because they asked a big group and it was like picked randomly out of town.
All right, that is correct. The answer is definitely valid because the conclusion, and if you remember, what do we always want it to be?
A big group.
Okay, very good. It's unbiased because, as she said, we want it to be a big group. We want it to be large, and what was the other word?
Random.
And random. At this point, it tells us up here at the top that it was at random, which is good. We always want something to be at random, okay? And then you want a large group. Here, they surveyed, you can see 100 of the residents. That's a large group of people. So in order for something to be valid or for it to be unbiased, you want the sample to be large and random. All right, so go ahead and write that in for problem B. All right, going on to problem number 4, we've got a modeling real life problem. I want you to take your red pen and fill in this formula that we have here. The formula you're writing says favorable over total equals n over the population. Have we ever heard about favorable over total before?
Yes.
Yeah, what do we use that to find?
Theoretical event.
Theoretical
Experiment.
probability, okay? So that's a definition or a formula we've used before with probability. Then you can see I have two fractions that equal each other. What is that called?
Equally matched and happen. What?
Starts with a P. What word is two fractions that equal each other?
Wait, ask the question again.
A proportion, okay? So we're kind of combining probability and a proportion here with a new formula. Favorable divided by the total surveyed equals n over the population. On your very last homework problem today, you're going to need to use this formula. So here's an example, kind of like the last problem you'll see. You ask 75 students, randomly chosen students at a school, how many movies they watch each week. How many of you would say that you watch at least one movie a week? Not a TV show. How many of you would say you watch more than one movie a week? Okay, who would say you don't watch very many movies at all? All right, interesting. More people who choose 0 movies than not. So here's what happens. There's 1,200 students in a school. Why do you think I don't go and ask all 1,200 students? It would take me too long. Okay, so instead what I say is I'm just going to get a sample of that big population. Estimate. What does the word estimate mean?
Even out.
Take a smart, educated guess about the number of students in the school who watch one movie every week. So the first thing, according to this little pie chart that you see over here, how many students watch one movie exactly per week? 21, okay? That's what's favorable, all right? We're looking for how many people watched a movie a week. So for favorable, you're going to write it over here just to the right. You might have to write kind of small to make sure it fits, okay? 21 divided by favorable over total surveyed. How many people did they ask in this survey? 21 divided by 75 equals N. N stands for what we're looking for. You can see right here, we are looking for the number of students in the school who watched one movie each week. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. That's my N. Divided by the total population. What's the population? 1,200 people are in the school. All right, so there's a few different ways that we could solve this. For today, I would like us to do it with cross products. So if you would, go ahead and circle it across. Remember, we always want to put our variable or our n on the left side. So what am I going to write on the left of the equal sign? Okay, 75 multiplied times n. And what about on the right?
21
times 1200.
21 times 1,200. Now there's no work I can do on the left side, so I'm going to drop down 75 times n. Hayden, what is 21 times 1200?
25,200.
25,200. AJ, how do I get n by itself? Divide by what?
75.
You are correct. We're going to divide by 75 on both sides. Ariana, what do you get for 25,200 divided by 75? 336. Now remember, this is modeling real life. So class, what would the units be attached to 336? What's it tell us to estimate?
People watch.
Numbers of students in the school.
Number of students, okay? So we're going to say, people would be okay also, but since they use the word students, we're going to go ahead and write 336 students. Now, did I go out and find those 336 students all by myself? No, I took a what? An estimation by taking a sample of the whole or of the population. Okay, does that make sense? Remember, once again, this is going to be like the last problem on your homework for tonight. There's another problem that's going to be similar to this on tonight's homework too. It says you ask 50 artists about their favorite art form. Determine whether your conclusion is valid. Valid just means truthful, okay? Is it a true statement? And then justify your answer, so explain it. This is what you conclude, that 15% of the people chose out of here that painting was their favorite form. In order to do this, you're going to have to take the part divided by the whole. Have we heard of that before? Yes, the part divided by the whole. I want you to talk to someone near you and see if you can figure out what the part is of people who chose painting as their favorite divided by the whole number of artists. And see what percentage that would be.
Got it.
All right, so listen, we are using this right here, guys. What part of the people chose painting? 6. Only 6 people liked it. Out of the whole, how many total people? 50. Guys, 6 divided by 50, what is that? 0.12, which is what percent? 12%. So here's the question. Going back to what it's asked me, determine whether or not your conclusion is valid. That means truthful. Guys, is 12% truthful? No. So would you say valid or not valid? Not valid. Someone explain to me, why is that not a valid statement?
Because it's not, it only has artists.
It was only what percent?
12.
12%, not 15% like it said. So it's not valid or it's not truthful. Okay, so this was just specifically asking, is it valid that 15% chose painting? No, it's not. Only 12% chose painting. Does that make sense? Once again, you're going to have problems like that on your homework. So when you get stuck on a homework problem, I want you to go back to number 5 and say, oh yeah, she taught us how to do this. Okay? All right, there is only one final problem, and this one is review. It says to solve the inequality and graph the solution. So it's been a little while since we've done something like this. It is a 2-step problem. Take your red pen and draw a heart around the best friends. Who's the best friends? 5x. Emma, what do you think I need to do first? Remember, our goal is to get x by itself. You are correct. Very good. We're subtracting 4 from both sides. On the left side, we know that this will cancel out. Rome, what are we left with on the left? 5x is what? Greater than or equal to 10. Rodney, how do I get x by itself? You are correct. I'm going to divide by 5. Gabe, when I do that, what's my answer? Very good. Okay, not x equals 2. He said it correctly. X is greater than or equal to 2. So now we have to graph it. It's been a little while since we've graphed something like this. How many numbers go on our graph?
3.
Hope, what number goes in the middle? Ariana, what goes to the left?
3.
To the left. 1. Miley, to the right.
3.
AJ, open or close circle?
Close.
Closed. And if I go back up here, it says all solutions are greater than 2. So which way should my arrow go?
Right.
To the right, because everything over here is greater than 2. Okay? You'll find a problem just like that on your homework for tonight too. Now what I want to do is give you a bit of time to work through your homework. Okay, this is to be done by yourselves. There's only 9 problems. And you've got about 20 minutes to do it. So I do want you to see how much of it you can get done. Remember, it needs to be done on paper and on big ideas.